This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Oil prices rose on Thursday as Iran stepped up attacks on oil and transport facilities across the Middle East, raising fears of a prolonged conflict and oil flow disruptions through the Strait of Hormuz. Brent futures were up $4.47, or 4.86%, to $96.45 a barrel at 0733 GMT, having hit $100 per barrel in earlier trading, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude climbed $4.05, or 4.64%, to $91.30. Brent hit $119.50 a barrel on Monday, its highest since mid-2022, then dropped after U.S. President Donald Trump said the Iran war could be over soon.
China has ordered an immediate ban on refined fuel exports in March in a further step to preempt a potential domestic fuel shortage caused by the US-Israeli war on Iran, four sources with knowledge of the matter said on Thursday. The ban, issued by the National Development and Reform Commission, includes shipments of gasoline, diesel and aviation fuel, the sources said. The halt applies to cargoes that had yet to clear customs as of March 11. The restriction on outbound flows goes beyond last week's move by Beijing urging refiners not to agree to new exports and to try to cancel shipments they had already committed to.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
The war in the Middle East is creating the biggest oil supply disruption in history, the International Energy Agency said on Thursday, a day after it agreed to release a record volume from strategic stockpiles to offset shortages and a spike in prices. Global supply is expected to drop by 8 million barrels per day in March, the IEA said in its latest monthly oil market report, due to the blocking of the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow channel along the Iranian coast, since the US and Israel began a campaign of airstrikes on Iran on February 28. Middle East Gulf countries including Iraq, Qatar, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia have cut total oil production by at least 10 million barrels of oil per day, a volume equal to almost 10% of world demand. As a result of the conflict, the IEA said.
Russia's crude oil and refined product exports and revenues declined in February to their lowest since the start of the Ukraine conflict in 2022, the International Energy Agency said on Thursday. Russia's commodity revenues are a vital part of the state budget and help sustain rising military spending. Its oil revenues have increased as the US-Israeli war on Iran caused oil prices to surge. The Paris-based IEA said Russia's crude oil exports declined by 410,000 barrels per day last month from January to 4.2 million barrels of oil per day. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Gold prices were little changed on Thursday, as margin calls on sliding equities, a stronger dollar and dampened rate cut bets offset safe haven demand for bullion amid the escalating US-Israeli war on Iran. Spot gold was flat at $5,174.13 per ounce as of 0923 GMT. U.S. gold futures for April delivery also held steady at $5,180.20. Global shares fell on Thursday as fresh attacks in the Gulf drove oil up over $100 a barrel and shattered any prospects of an imminent de-escalation in the Middle East conflict.
Aluminium prices hit their highest level in almost 4 years on Thursday on worries of tighter supply to Europe and other regions as the Middle East conflict disrupts shipments via the Strait of Hormuz. Benchmark 3-month aluminium on the London Metal Exchange rose 0.6% to $3,478.50 a metric ton by 11:11 GMT after touching $3,546.50, its highest since late March 2022. The war in the Middle East has affected deliveries from aluminium producers in the region that account for around 9% of global aluminium supply and sparked fears of disrupted deliveries of raw materials such as alumina to these producers via the Strait of.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Consultancy Expana lowered its forecast for European Union soft wheat exports in the 2025-26 season for a fifth consecutive month after reducing projected wheat and barley shipments to the Middle East due to the war in the region, it said on Thursday. In a monthly report, the consultancy put EU soft wheat exports at 27.1 million metric tons, down from 27.6 million last month, which would still exceed the 2024-25 low level, when a poor harvest hampered French shipments. To reflect the immediate impact of the war in the Middle East, we are initially revising down our forecasts for European wheat and barley exports to countries in the region, it said in the report.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.